We're looking at essay title number 1 from May 2016. This is the one about gaining knowledge using a network of ways of knowing, which has to be discussed with reference to 2 areas of knowledge. Now, I can't read the exact essay title out because the IB have copyrighted that, and they may issue me with a takedown notice if I read the full essay title out. So I won't be doing that. Make sure that you get the right essay title from your teacher. You need the exact essay title. Let's just have a think about this essay title before we dive in. There are some interesting words there. The word gaining knowledge and the idea of networks of ways of knowing. So this is about knowledge production, and it's about the ways of knowing that are used in knowledge production and how those ways of knowing link together. So let's have a look at that word gaining. What exactly does gaining mean? A lot of the areas of knowledge are centered around academic knowledge production. So you could interpret naming as meaning academic research leading to the production of new knowledge. It's sort of like research carried out in universities, or the process by which an area of knowledge such as the arts comes up with some accepted new knowledge, accepted new genre, the way in which social sciences come up with new knowledge, that type of thing. It could be a process of discovery, the sort of eureka moment, the moment in which knowledge just suddenly comes to people. Or you could look at it as much more sort of personal aspect of knowledge and how that then develops into shared knowledge. I think the danger here is to be anecdotal. A useful area to look at would be the movement from personal knowledge to shared knowledge. You've got to be very careful when you discuss the movement from personal knowledge to shared knowledge. Don't just talk about anecdotal experience, but it needs to be about how the personal knowledge was assimilated into the shared knowledge of a community, or the shared knowledge of a community was assimilated into the personal knowledge of the individual. The word network is central to this question, and you're going to need to spend some time unpacking that word. It can be approached in a number of different ways. You can think of the different ways in which networks function, and some networks function in a parallel way, some networks function in a serial way. The way in which the network functions will have some impact, some influence on the way that knowledge is developed. You could look at networks in terms of their value. Networks place differing values on different points in the network. Networks place differing values on different people who are operating in the network, and equally a network of knowledge will place differing values upon the knowledge existing in that network. And it could be seen in terms of context or situation, that knowledge in a network in one context might be highly valuable, whilst in another context it may be of little value. I'm also interested in how networks distort and change messages. As the information, the knowledge gets passed through the network, it gets interpreted in different ways. It has different nuances added to it. A little bit like the game Telephone, if you've played that, which was known by a much less politically correct term when I was a child. Moving on. Right at the centre of this essay is the concept of the knowledge framework. The knowledge framework is really, really important in this essay. If you don't know anything about the knowledge frameworks, then you need to ask your teachers about them. Every area of knowledge has a knowledge framework. These are found in the TOK guide. If you're thinking of doing this essay, you need to get hold of those knowledge frameworks, get hold of that TOK guide, and you need to base your essay around them. The knowledge framework defines the methods that the area of knowledge uses to gain knowledge. It looks at the underlying assumptions of that area of knowledge. It looks at the underlying values of that area of knowledge. And it looks at the historical content and the historical context of that knowledge. How did knowledge become accepted within that area of knowledge? You can link the knowledge framework to the movement from personal knowledge to shared knowledge and the values which are linked with that. Moving on. Your essay needs to have at the heart of it a knowledge question which then can be developed into other knowledge questions. You really need to develop your own knowledge question. Don't just try to copy them off a talk help site like this one, or get your teacher to write them, or get your friends to write them. The knowledge question has to be meaningful to you, because the knowledge questions that you use are what you're going to base your essay around. Don't just write the knowledge questions in the first paragraph and never come back to them. They need to be evident throughout the essay. If you have no idea about knowledge questions, then read my really easy guide to knowledge questions, which can be found on Talk Trump. I do give some examples of knowledge questions on this slide here and in the accompanying blog post to this video. So let's have a look at a worked example, a real-life situation, which could be used in this essay. And I take the example of Booth's poverty maps. These maps were developed in London in the 1800s. It was the first time that anybody had tried to map poverty, and Charles Booth came up with a systematic statistical method for surveying the population by ward, which is a district of a postcode, and then translating the data that he found into coloured parts on a map which mapped poverty across London. So with Booth's poverty maps, we see the coming together of a network of ways of knowing. He used reason, he used perception, he used language, he used possibly imagination. We also see a network of areas of knowledge as well. We see the human sciences and we see mathematics working together. We possibly see the arts in there as well. They developed new knowledge in the areas of knowledge of human sciences, in the disciplines of sociology, economics and geography. We can go up with some counterclaims. Did we really see the use of a network of ways of knowing? Or was he primarily using reason, and the other ways of knowing which are evident there are actually inferior to reason? Did Booth really come up with new knowledge, or did he just find a way of representing pre-existing knowledge? And finally, was it Booth's social position which allowed him to create knowledge? Did he have employment status or a particular position in society which allowed his knowledge to be accepted as shared knowledge, whereas somebody who wasn't quite so important or didn't quite hold the same position as him in society, if they'd come up with this idea, would their idea have been accepted as new knowledge? Again, this is just my own example of a real-life situation. Don't copy mine, come up with your own. Think of the varied ways in which you've learned that knowledge has been created through your IB subjects. Take your own ideas. They'll be much more valuable and more useful to you and easier to write. So I hope that I've given you some ideas on how to go about writing a response to the first essay for the May 2016 session. If you want more ideas, read the blog post where you found this video. And if you want even more ideas, talk to your TOK teacher. Have fun writing this essay.